He quotes Alan Dershowitz, not only to reassure us that the Israelis treat Palestinians, 400 of whom have been killed in Gaza over the past few months, humanely, but to trot out this notion of a ticking time bomb, the idea that we know a terrorist has planted a large bomb in the center of a city, and we must torture him, or in the glib phrase from Sam's book, we must dust off a strappado and expose this unpleasant fellow to a Satan of bygone times. This reference to torture might be amusing if you have spent your life encased in the protective world of the university. But as someone who was captured and held for a week by Iraqi Republican Guard during the 1991 Shiite uprising in Basra, and then turned over for my final 24 hours to the Iraqi secret police, whom my captors openly expected to execute me, I find this glib talk of physical abuse difficult. Dershowitz and Harris cannot give us a legal or historical precedent where such a case as they describe actually happened. But this is not the point. The point is to endow us as a nation with a moral right to abuse others in the name of a particular version of goodness. This is done in the name of reason. It is done in the name of a false god, an idol. And this god, if you want it named, is the god of death. Or as Freud stated, thanatos, the death instinct, the impulse that works towards the annihilation of all living things, including ourselves. For once you torture, even in the name of reason, even in the name of security, you unleash sadists and killers. You consign human beings to moral oblivion. You become no better than those you oppose. The danger... The point of religion, authentic religion, is not that in the end it is about us. It is about the other, about the stranger lying beaten and robbed on the side of the road, about the poor, the outcasts, the marginalized, the sick, the destitute, about those who are being abused and beaten in cells in Guantanamo and a host of other secret locations, about what we as a society do to gays and lesbians, what we do to the 47 million Americans without health insurance, the illegal immigrants who live among us without rights or protection. Their suffering is as invisible as the suffering of the mentally ill we have relegated to heating grates or prison cells. It is about them. We have forgotten who we were meant to be, who we were created to be, because we have forgotten that we find God not in ourselves, finally, but in our care for our neighbor, in the stranger, including those outside the nation and the faith. The religious life is not designed to make you happy or safe or content. It is not designed to make you whole or complete, to free you from anxieties and fear. It is designed to save you from yourself, to make possible human community, to understand that the greatest force in life is not power or reason, but love. As Niebuhr wrote, nothing worth doing is completed in our lifetime, therefore we are saved by hope. Nothing true or beautiful or good makes complete sense in any immediate context of history, therefore we are saved by faith. Nothing we do, however virtuous, can be accomplished alone, therefore we are saved by love. No virtuous act is quite as virtuous from the standpoint of our friend or foe as from our own. Therefore, we are saved by the final form of love, which is forgiveness. Thank you.
I think you guys stated it. I just want to ask a couple of questions, because we're going to run out of time. But on the second half of your remarks, I think we could have a discussion about, and we should, how do we perceive the Muslim religion and so forth. So sure, leave that. On the first part, though, I think you avoided the argument of his work. Because he makes the point that this fundamentalist religion, which you attack, the Christian right and so forth, actually is a more honest position than what you call the liberal theology. At least they believe in revealed truths. They make a claim that there is a God that they invoke, that there are documents that you can refer to. And the religion that you refer to here is one that an atheist can accept quite readily. It's a God of great mystery, interest. I'm not putting it down, but I was probably the only one in this room who actually met and interviewed Bertrand Russell. I know some of you regard, you would consider him in that respect a highly religious person, a man who cared a great deal about preventing nuclear war, about freedom in the world, and so forth. So he would be your ideal religious person. But the reason I say it begs the argument is that Sam, in his writing, says that we live in a different world where religion, in fact, is believed in a literal sense, that this is supposed to be revealed truth, and that he has these statistics. I forget the statistics, but 80% believe the earth is only 6,000 years old, and they believe that homosexuals are criminals or should be stoned because it is written somewhere, along with you shouldn't eat shellfish, although that part is forgotten. And it seems to me, and I'm not going for laughs here, it seems to me what Sam has pinpointed is what is actually the religious experience of most Americans. And as he points out in his book, it's not the religious experience of most Europeans, and in fact many different peoples in the world, but in this country, and that's why we call this religion, politics, and the end of the world, the people who actually are president, right? And we're talking about some marginal fringe movements. Our politics are controlled by people who believe what those three Republican candidates believe. And they believe, and then you invoke Jesus. Let me put it this question point is. Yet you told me, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I asked you, do we really know whether Jesus even existed? Do we know whether any of the thoughts attributed to Jesus have any basis? And you were quite clear that we don't.
We don't.
So what is the value of invoking Jesus when we have no idea if he ever existed or if any of the ideas attributed to him were ever connected with this person who might not have existed? Well, why is it relevant?
First of all, I think that what Sam attacks is tribalism. It is that reveals spiritual truth, which is part of tribal society, which can't be deviated. Religion often lends itself to tribal society, but anything within a closed society or a tribal society is colored by that belief, whether it's the system of government, the patriarchal nature of the family. I mean, and when we look at the radical Christian right in this movement, I, in fact, think it has no religious legitimacy at all. I look at it as a mass movement, and probably the most dangerous mass movement in American history. It is fused. What it has done is fused Christian language and Christian iconography with the language and iconography of American nationalism. I saw the same thing in the Balkans, and that's a toxic and powerful mix. But really, in biblical terms, it is a form of idolatry. Now, the problem with the Bible is, to quote Niebuhr again, religion is a good thing for good people and a bad thing for bad people. You can find anything you want in the Bible, including, it was a document written by over hundreds of years by writers with varying agendas, some of which are morally indefensible. And yet, nevertheless, the ethics that were promoted by in various books in the Bible, the concept of the individual, the concept of the prophets like Amos about justice. I mean, the value of religion for me is that it is the beginning of ethical systems. It's our first struggling with ethics. And the notion that somehow religion itself is defined to those narrow, tribalistic, chauvinistic elements, not that they don't wrap themselves in the name of it, I just think is unfair. I mean, you can read the book of Ecclesiastes, and it could have been written by Beckett. I mean, and that's also in the Bible.
It seems to me that you don't think that beliefs really have consequences. I mean, to attribute this to institutions as opposed to what people think seems to me to completely miss the way people behave in this world, why they behave the way they do, why they have the emotional reactions they have, why they perpetrate violence when they do and why they don't. And all I'm arguing for is that beliefs have consequences, and beliefs, religious beliefs, should be subjected to the same kinds of conversational pressures that we subject all other beliefs to, and that this taboo that gives beliefs in the name of God a free ride in our discourse has to be lifted. And so, I mean, you mentioned the second commandment at one point, the commandment against graven images. That commandment was responsible for the Muslim cartoon controversy. I mean, where did Muslims get it into their heads that you could not draw a picture of Muhammad. It is their endorsement of the second commandment. I can assure you that if the Quran said, by all means, caricature the prophet to the best of your ability, for this pleases the Lord, there would be no cartoon controversy. You would not have had people by the hundreds of thousands burning embassies and taking hostages. And I think something like 140 people died. And, that was just an eruption of egregious medieval stupidity. And it took the form it took because the religion is in the form it's in. People believe that specific tenet about idolatry.
Can I just challenge you on that? Because it's clearly laid out in